One of the things I need to do more of is bring attention to the things that I can do for patients and the community. You know, I oftentimes think to myself, and I always try and remind myself, I battle against and curse the darkness oftentimes and not always shine as much light as I should in the realm of health and wellness. And getting people well, I think, is one of the keys to really winning this battle against an aspect of corruption in medicine. So, and the reason being is if we look at the corruption of the drug industry, if we understand that big pharma has really corrupted the entire planet, countries across the world. Now we're hearing that the opioid crisis and the fraud and criminal, the criminality of the opioid manufacturers even went all the way to the World Health Organization. Again, it's kind of off topic here, but the reality is I need to bring light into this situation and show people how they can get off their medications, get well, get healthy, and get to the root causes of problems. So that's what I want to be doing with this show here today. One of the aspects that brought me to this today, I need to start doing this on a regular basis, is the fact that my wife got a text message from a friend of ours, a member of our church who works in the child care area, and she's literally reaching out to my wife saying, hey, I want to be healthy, I want to get off my medications. I listen to your husband, he's very passionate about what he does, but would he have any idea how to come off of some medications for health purposes, for psychiatric health problems? And my wife's like, absolutely. It's not just a supplement, we're going to tell you, you need to contact him. She's like, oh wow, does he do that kind of stuff? You know, and so I need to get the word out there that I can help people. So there are Wellness Way clinics. If you're watching right now, there are Wellness Way clinics across the United States. So you wouldn't have to, if you want the help that I'm describing here today and showing you, if you want more direct assistance, hopefully you guys are benefited from some of the information you can take home and utilize yourself right away. But if you need more direct assistance, you can contact my office through thewilddoc.com, or you can call our office, 931-591-2010, or you can search for a Wellness Way clinic in your local area. Hopefully you can have somebody to work directly with you in person, or I can do phone consultations and online consultations with you if you need to. Again, this is a patient case study reviewing. This woman came in her 60s with low libido. Yes, you can have a libido. I mean, we've studied tribes across the world that live a very, very healthy lifestyle, like the Hunzas, and those tribal communities, they can be having sex into their 90s. I mean, so low libido is nothing, it's very common, but it's nothing to shake a stick at. No pun intended there. The reality is we need to understand that we should be living healthy, vibrant, amazing lives even into our 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. So I do believe it was probably a little bit of the husband's complaint, maybe more than the wife's, that the low libido was there. But what husband really doesn't complain about that? We are guys. So, but here are some of the initial things that this woman came in with. I'm sorry, she wasn't in her 60s, she was actually 56, so just nearing that, and that's kind of an insult maybe, now that I said that. But she was overweight, was one of the primary issues she had. She wanted to lose weight. She really had that distended abdomen. I always call it kind of the ripe watermelon abdomen, because you kind of thump on it, it's kind of solid and hard. It wasn't like this, you weren't looking at that fat on the external part of the muscles. You were really looking at internal visceral fat, or what oftentimes is going on is there is visceral inflammation. There's inflammation internally, which we did find and identify that on one of her biomarkers, one of her lab tests. Her blood work showed that she had high C-reactive protein, which is a critical marker to really know kind of the general overall health of somebody, is measuring C-reactive protein over a time period. You can't just measure it one time, especially if somebody has an infection at that moment in time when they are having that blood work drawn. C-reactive protein would be high, and typically should be high, because our body uses inflammation to kill off bad bugs, viruses or bacteria. But again, hormones, low libido, weight loss problems. She knew that she had a thyroid condition, but didn't really understand what type of thyroid condition she had. They basically were telling her like, oh, you have, they indicated anywhere from hypothyroidism to Hashimoto's. She didn't really know. There was no explanation from her primary medical physicians, and I find that oftentimes that our patients, the patients that seek our care through the Wellness Way, ultimately haven't got a lot of explanation. And that was the unique story of this woman's health history, is that she really had several indicators of poor health, reasons why she was dealing with the hormonal disruption and problems, and also why she couldn't lose weight, but yet nobody wanted to help her and explain those things. But it was all in her blood work. I really found a lot of the clues for her issues in prior lab work that she had done elsewhere. So we really didn't have to, double up on blood work, which was nice. She had swollen, painful joints, again, going back to the high inflammation, irritability, and mood problems. She was very irritable to her husband, so it affected their relationship. She was stressed all the time, just really felt high-strung. Thyroid disorder, again, talked about Hashimoto's, was the one that we found that she had primarily. And a GI issue, again, the distended abdomen, digestive tract problems, constipation, and then she'd periodically have bouts of diarrhea. Heart flutter, been diagnosed with that in the past. And again, poor libido there on the screen. So if you TWD in the comments, you get links to the articles that I'm discussing throughout this entire presentation today. I want you guys to have that so you can be educated. And some of it I'm going to brush over real quick so you guys can all have the information for yourself. Again, female, 56 years old, postmenopausal, also had a hysterectomy, but thankfully not a full hysterectomy. She had her ovaries maintained. Please, 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 ladies, do not have a full hysterectomy where you have your ovaries removed. Seek our help before you ever have your ovaries removed, especially if you're premenopausal. So if you haven't gone through natural menopause yet, don't go into it surgically, because guess what? Your risk of dementia, of Parkinson's disease, of heart failure, heart disease, stroke, poor sexual function, dryness, the list goes on and on and on. This is why I really hammered. I did it in a presentation a while back. I don't even know if we have that. I know that Ashley did not link it to this video because I'm just coming up with it in my head, but I did a video on Angelina Jolie and how wrong medicine was to cut off her breasts and then cut out her ovaries and do a full hysterectomy. And the science, the peer-reviewed medical literature on a oophorectomy, or having your ovaries removed, is extremely strong in saying what? That you're increasing women's risk of a plethora of health issues, including lung cancer, which is far more deadly than ovarian cancer. And you're increasing the risk of, again, Parkinson's disease, to dementia, to poor sexual function, to poor mood, to depression, to all kinds of problems, and an overall increase in mortality, so death increase. And she had one child at this time, so thankfully they had a child before having the hysterectomy. Again, like so many times I have to put out this horrible joke, but the reality is they need to change the name of hysterectomy, because it never removes the hysteria from a woman. And that is the initial definition, or the initial reason they called the removing of a woman's reproductive organs. They called it a hysterectomy because they believed in medicine that they could, if we just remove a female's reproductive organs, we'll remove the hysteria in a woman, and they will no longer be crazy and hormonal. Nope, didn't work. You actually made them worse, docs. Thanks a lot. Now, that is not to say that if a woman has inflammation in there, they can remove the organ and they can do it with some pain and some menstrual symptomatology, but we have to understand that they are not getting to the root causes just by removing an organ. You are not healthier by removing organs. You are merely removing the check engine light. You're literally surgically removing what is telling you your body is not functioning properly, and that is so wrong for the person. You want to be able to have your body signal to you when you have a disease or dysfunction in that region of the body. Now, on an extreme situation, surgery can buy time for the healing of a process or going through a healing process to correct the underlying cause, and you may save the person's life in the emergent situation of certain types of health conditions. But the reality is, the way we're doing it here in America, we are literally cutting an organ out, not seeking for why the person had the initial reproductive organ problem in the first place, and then they're later being diagnosed with a more serious disease or condition and worsening health, worsening problems in life. So we've got to change the way our system works. Hormone therapy she had tried 10 years. She had gone through chiropractic care in the past, so she was familiar with pain-based chiropractic care for neck and back pain, but nothing structurally corrective. She'd been on, and she was on cholesterol medications at the time. We're going to talk and hammer that pretty strong. And then blood pressure medications as well, which she didn't have elevated blood pressure, and her heart flutter was the only thing they put her on, but she did have some cardiovascular indicators, quote-unquote high cholesterol. So we went through structural corrective chiropractic care right off the bat, and the reason we do that with our patients, that's a major foundation, especially with hormonal women. I know it may sound crazy, but listen to me here. If you look at and watch women go through pregnancy, it's one of the easiest ways that I can show people that if we don't correct and improve posture, we are going to negatively affect their hormonal balance and their stress response into their future. And that's why so many women change after pregnancy. And yes, there's a lot of stress with children. There's a lot of stress with just the physical demand on the body, as well as the need to take care of children, nursing, those types of things. So the way we can help ladies recover, we don't need to put them on antidepressants for postpartum depression and these things. If we were to seek out ways to assist, men, you got to get off the couch and you got to start helping your wives with the dishes. You got to start doing extra things around the house, chip in with the laundry, things like that, men. If you do that, you will see your your wife's hormonal balance or imbalance improve. I guarantee it. So men, get off the couch. I'm sure I'm getting a lot of hearts and thumbs up after saying that. And it's kind of preaching to the choir. I probably could do a lot more than I do. If my wife sees this, I should probably throw that in there. And honey, I will be home tonight. Actually, what I did was I bought my wife one of those, what are those like robot sweepers, vacuums? Like that's what I bought. I'm like, okay, you want me to help out more? Here, let me buy you a vacuum. All right, anyways. So husbands, do that. Trust me, it is worth it. It saves a lot of time. I'm like, I always push the button. And I'm like, hey, babe, I'm going to clean the floors here real quick. Let me sweep the house. Actually, I had to pick up the house before we do that. Anyways, but women, some of the biggest causes of health problems in women is going to be the amount of stress that they're under. They are under a huge demand. I mean, children are crazy. Mine are crazy especially. They have my DNA. So, women need help with the house. They need help with the children, those things, because it is very stressful. It's easy for me to come, I work hard, I do things, but trust me, I get to do what I love and enjoy, mission-based, as well as helping my patients out, and I don't necessarily have to listen and watch the kids battle or mommy, 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 when, So it's funny because I'll walk in the house and Anna's always like, you know what, there's another grown-up here, so no more mommies tonight. Now it's daddies. And no matter how many times she says that, it's always daddy, or mommy, mommy, mommy. But stress is huge. Got to take care of that. And I'll give you a little tip on that. A really cool research study about going into nature and how much that improves even salivary cortisol levels, and stress hormones can really benefit from going into nature. We did a food allergy panel on her. We wanted to look for any triggers of inflammation. We wanted to be very specific with her nutritional regimen so that we know that the recommendations, and we found a key one here that really was needed in a hormonal situation situation. So women with hormonal disruption, hormone problems, reproductive problems, flaxseed is phenomenal. Well, this lady had a +4, which is one of the highest indications of an IgG response. So her blood, her immune system was responding very, very strongly against flaxseed. So we had to eliminate flaxseed in her diet. It was causing inflammation, and that could be contributing to the belly fat, the visceral inflammation, that swollen belly, that watermelon belly. You know, everybody understands the watermelon belly. Usually when I start describing, it's like if you thump on it, it's kind of like a ripe watermelon. It's not like you can grab a hold of all this fat on the outside. It really is just a swollen, just distended stomach. And again, the stool, so we did a stool analysis, we did a we recommended a female hormonal panel and a thyroid panel, but she had some prior blood work, so we got that. So our plan is, if needed in the future, is to do a female hormone panel and then a thyroid. Even though she's got a hormonal issue, I'm gonna go and lay the foundation of somebody's health down and start working on those things. And again, going back to the chiropractic thing, is when we look at the structural positioning of a woman's spine. That was where I failed to mention what I was getting at there, where I got on the squirrel. So watch women go through multiple pregnancies, their chest enlarges, their belly enlarges, so they take on this posture right here. So their head comes forward to their shoulders, they get more tension in their upper back, in their shoulders and their necks, they get more tension, headaches oftentimes. Well, that posture actually distorts two primary regions. The region of the sympathetic nervous system to the reproductive organs, and even sometimes the mid to lower GI, digestive tract, and it also can affect the thyroid, and it can affect the cervical curve. So cervical curve is very, very important. I did link for you, TWD, in the comments here on Facebook. I linked for you a research article about postural modulation and control, modulation control of our hormones and different aspects of our physiology, how our body functions. See, women going through that, and the study actually quoted is, if I quote it properly, it says, posture affects and moderates all physiological function from breathing to hormonal production, spinal pain, headaches, and blood pressure, pulse, lung capacity, and I think digestion. All those functions are easily influenced by posture. Again, watch a woman go through multiple pregnancies as her head comes out here, more tension in the muscles, but that tension in the muscles is the outward symptomatic appearance of a loss of normal lordosis in the neck. If you look at Journal Geriatrics and other journals, even journals on thyroid function, you can show and find, or you will find, that whiplash, car accidents, can cause hypothyroidism. Structural damage to the spinal cord, the nerves through whiplash can actually cause dysfunction in the thyroid, so it affects the hormones. But the primary mechanism by which this happens, especially if it's something that's not so much traumatic, but happens over a period of time and with posture, is that a loss of curve creates tension on the spinal cord. If you lose the curve, just do this with your hand at home, and you understand the importance of this. If you have a curvature in your neck, which you should have, a C-shaped curvature looking like that from the back or from the side, and that C-shape kind of be like Pac-Man opening the mouth towards the back. But anyway, a C-shaped curve leaves cord relaxation. It relaxes the spinal cord. It leaves it without tension on it. When we lose that curve, especially when with the Dowser's hump, that little puffiness on the back of the neck right through here, they have an increased cardiovascular risk. They have increased hormonal problems, increased risk of thyroid dysfunction, all because they have increased cord tension. That is a structural, that is a posture indicator that they have a serious misalignment and problem in the structure of their spine. But that cord tension, it activates the sympathetic tone. Our sympathetic tone is our fight or flight system. So it's the system of our nervous system that kicks into overdrive to help us run away from a tiger, fight or flight. Okay, and then we have the parasympathetic nervous system, and that parasympathetic system is more geared towards reproduction. It's geared towards rest and recovery and digestion. So if we go into a fight or flight because our cord is constantly under tension, and we see this with our military too. It's really unique. We see our military improve significantly after combat coming back from combat overseas, coming back from war, and we see that if we can correct our posture, because I mean, rucking with helmets on and rucksacks is horrible. And that's really where I see a lot of women, even here in Clarksville, Tennessee. I see a lot of women dealing, especially our military women, dealing with more hormonal issues, more weight gain problems and things like that. Even though high level of physical strenuous activity, their posture is just destroyed by those rucksacks, the helmets on, those things, because that further perpetuates forward head posture. You put a backpack on, you send your head out as a counterbalance. So with this, if we can take the cord tension down, or we can remove that tension on the spinal cord, we take the body out of that sympathetic fight or flight. If you were running from a tiger, you are literally starving your internal organs of blood flow, because you want blood flow. Your respiratory, your cardiac function goes up, so your respiration goes up, your blood pressure goes up, your heart rate goes up, your alertness and awareness. You know, I always say, like, here's a woman at home who's under stress. She's in that high sympathetic tone, whether it be just the situational environmental stress of the relationship or being home with the kids, those types of things. You got to get them out of that stress response. Here it is. So if a woman was running from a tiger and a man came up and said, hey, you want to do it? Guess what? She's going to be like, no, we're running from a tiger, get away from me. She's going to like overreact. Or if the guy's just like, hey, can you know, whatever the guy wants, you know. The women are going to overreact. Anybody really is. If you're in that fight or flight, you're going to be like, no, get away from me. You're going to overreact. You're going to be irritable. Your mood is going to be negative, because in that fight or flight, you know, if somebody was running from a tiger, you know, even if they were able to hide and somewhat get away from that tiger, if there's still that threat there, still activating a low level or a sympathetic tone, that fight or flight, you're going to have somebody that can be chronically depressed or chronically irritable or just in a negative mood, or they're going to have anxiety. Think about that. If you're hiding from a tiger, you're going to be anxious and fearing the tiger's, like, your impending doom, or you're going to be depressed fearing your impending doom, because you're in that sympathetic overdrive. Those mindsets, or that state of mind, anxiety or even depression, can be a protective mechanism at times to help you survive in that type of situation. I'm telling you all that because there are many, many different factors that can activate that sympathetic tone, and you must check them all. If your spine is out of alignment, correct it. So thyroid, we had some thyroid numbers from our old panels, so we were able to work with that. So really quickly, one of the things she was on was a cholesterol medication. If you look on the screen, you can see this. If you're dealing with hormonal problems and you're on a cholesterol medications, you may want to rethink this. At least read the articles that I'm going to give you, TWD in the comments if you want articles, research documents that I'm referring to. But cholesterol is literally the building block to your mother of all hormones. So really it's like, well, pregnenolone is supposed to be the mother of all hormones, or is it cholesterol? Cholesterol is what pregnenolone is made from, so without cholesterol, without adequate cholesterol, and without cholesterol being able to be directed in the right direction towards benefiting you in a hormonal balance, well, if it's got to go over here and fight off inflammation and help your tissues repair from inflammatory damage caused by an infection or other factor or dietary problems, or even that sympathetic tone. Your inflammation is going to go up if you're under stress. Your insulin will go up under stress. Your sugar levels, triglyceride levels will go up underneath stress, so you've got to get rid of that stress. But cholesterol is needed for the development and production of every single hormone in your body. It is an absolutely crucial lipid protein in your body, and without it you would literally die. So cholesterol is not bad. It is really, really good for you. Yes, I said that, and I mean that. Cholesterol is really, really, really good for you. Your body needs it for basically everything. So your body doesn't make a mistake. Cholesterol could be used as an indicator for when someone's body is in an inflamed state or it's trying to heal something, but it is not what is bad for you. So directly lowering cholesterol is doing nothing more than removing the sign and indicator, or it's like removing the firemen when there's fires going on. That doesn't make any sense. Yes, there will be more fires. There will be higher cholesterol when there'll be more firemen when there are more fires. When you have inflammation, when you have damage taking place within your body, or even you have low hormone levels, because of other factors, you may have higher cholesterol because your body's trying to produce that cholesterol, have it available for the production of other hormones or for the repairing of tissue damage. So you need to put out the fire. You can't just fire the firemen and get rid of them and think you're going to be healthier. That is the problem with modern day medicine. So one of the things we found on our previous blood work that had been consistently going up, and she was becoming, basically becoming a diabetic, is where she was headed. Statin use is risk use and risk of developing diabetes results in diabetes prevention program. Anyways, read this article, great one from British Medical Journal, open access. If you look at it, cholesterol statin medications increase the risk of diabetes, especially in women. And another one you will find over time, you will actually be able to find that. Do we have that in there double? Or am I not seeing something? Oops, sorry. I must have doubled up. Apologize. But statin medications increase the risk of diabetes mellitus in postmenopausal women. So specific to her case, I'm giving this patient all this material to read so that she can be well informed for herself. Highlights from this: statin medication use in postmenopausal women is associated with an increased risk of diabetes mellitus. This may be a medication class effect. All statin medications. Further study by statin type and dose may reveal varying risk levels for new onset diabetes in this population. But here's the deal. Think about it, everyone out there. Cholesterol medications are not doing, we have some of the lowest cholesterol levels across, if you compare us with other westernized countries, but we have the highest overall mortality and death rate and occurrence of heart disease. We are the sickest nation in the world with the lowest in terms of cardiovascular health, with more people dying of it, yet we have the lowest cholesterol. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't at all. We are not correcting the underlying cause, okay? And not only that, if you elevate someone's risk of developing diabetes, you are elevating, if you have diabetes and normal cholesterol levels, your risk of stroke and heart attack is still high. Actually, it's higher than somebody who has slightly elevated cholesterol levels with diabetes. Your risk of diabetes, that's why I know I didn't link to it, but why drugs don't help diabetic patients' hearts, I believe is the title of the article. There was a research article done, and they assumed that lowering cholesterol levels, lowering blood pressure, lowering these cardiovascular numbers or risk factors, quote unquote risk factors, they're not risk factors, I don't know why I have to refer to them because that's a common language that everybody else understands somewhat. But these indicators, not risk factors, indicators, cholesterol is an indicator, blood pressure can be an indicator, but it's not a risk factor really. What's causing the blood pressure to go high, what's causing the cholesterol to go high is the risk factor, all right? So there's a difference there. But that is a great one if you have diabetes, but and you want to know that using these medications actually makes your condition worse. Yes, cholesterol medications can cause diabetes. If you have diabetes, you are making your diabetes worse if you're on a cholesterol medication. All right, women could actually sue the makers of Libido if they took cholesterol medications and developed diabetes, so they could file a lawsuit. Great, I'm glad. They should sue. So, Pfizer lawsuits, there you go on Lipitor. You could read through those. And let me read you a couple highlights here. Lawsuits began to be filed not long after Food and Drug Administration in 2012 warned that Lipitor and other statins had been linked to the incidence of memory loss and small increases in risk of diabetes, according to the plaintiff's lawyers. Plaintiff's lawyers. Women face a higher risk than men developing diabetes after using Lipitor. It is not uncommon for a drug maker to get hit with thousands of lawsuits over the products for the FDA orders after the FDA orders a label change, but it's just sad that this information was there for several years. We knew it was occurring. They're slow to alert the public. Many women developing diabetes and their risk of heart disease and heart attack and stroke went up. They lowered their cholesterol, but their risk of stroke and heart attack went up because diabetes is one of the biggest risk factors for. If you have diabetes, the cause of that diabetic state in your body is what the risk factor truly is. Again, it kind of is a play on words, but you got to understand we've got to seek for underlying cause. Statins, I gave you this article. I'm not going to read through it, but I did link to it, TWD, in the comments here on Facebook. If you're on YouTube in the future, you've got to go into the description of this video and you got to click on the link, which will bring you to the wilddoc.com. You get the blog site where this video is on my website, and then you'll be able to get the references. But statins stimulate atherosclerosis. What is that? It's actually hardening and calcification in your arteries, a major risk factor. That is a risk factor for heart attack and stroke and heart failure. Okay, statin medications work through a mechanism to actually lower the production of cholesterol in the liver, and the way in which it does it, it also lowers coenzyme Q10. And by doing so, you need CoQ10 to be able to produce ATP, energy for your muscle tissue. So if you lower the ability for your body to produce energy for muscle tissue, what is the muscle? What is the muscle that works more than any other muscle in your body? It is your heart. All right? So heart failure goes up if somebody takes a statin medication. Now, if you wanted to go into the conspiracy theory realm, but it's not really a conspiracy theory, it is actually true. The manufacturers of these medications, cholesterol medications, I believe they have to know it, because I don't know how anybody could still maintain a thought process this day and age with the plethora, the massive quantity of scientific literature out there, scientific studies out there that show the benefits of cholesterol. Framingham study showed benefits of higher cholesterol in women and men. The higher their cholesterol was over the age of 43, the longer they lived. Their body could repair tissue better. Their body could produce hormones better. They lived a higher quality of life. They were able to live longer, folks. So looking at the available evidence we have today, anyone who says cholesterol is bad doesn't know the science, doesn't know the information out there that is available to us all. We have to understand that there can be indicators, or we can use cholesterol as an indicator, and we can do what's right to lower the factors that drive cholesterol up, and ultimately then we would be helping the person. But we need to look at the inflammatory markers. But this is a gateway drug, and what I mean by that, not into addiction, but it is a gateway drug. If you can disrupt and lower the production of a lipid protein, all right? Cholesterol is lipoprotein, all right? Cholesterol is a lipoprotein. It's a transport protein needed for the transport of lipids to damaged tissue. It's also needed for the repair and maintenance of the lipid membrane, the bilayer of every single cell in your body. Every single cell needs cholesterol, every one of them. The production of every single hormone, production of the most neurotransmitters. Literally, almost every single function in your body needs cholesterol. So if you can lower cholesterol, or trick people into thinking that cholesterol is bad for them, they start lowering their cholesterol. Some people do it with red yeast rice and other things. No, don't do it. The wrong approach to getting things under control and getting healthy. But if you trick people into believing that cholesterol, something good for your body, is actually bad for your body, then what you do is you get a lot of people on a medication that ultimately does nothing but harm them. That's why I want all of you to read this study right here. These researchers took all available data, everything out there, researching, reviewing it, looking at the clinical trials. They even showed and explained how you could take a clinical trial and make it look like the patients benefited from a cholesterol medication. And the way they did that was the way the manufacturers of these drugs would do a clinical trial, they wouldn't take people with elevated cholesterol levels and randomize elevated cholesterol over there patients and elevated cholesterol patients over there. They wouldn't randomize them into a placebo-controlled trial. They gave them a placebo, but what they did, instead of randomizing patients, they took all the high cholesterol patients, they put them over here on the Lipitor or cholesterol medication, and then they came over here and they took low cholesterol patients and they put them over here, all right? So if you look at the Framingham study and other things, high cholesterol levels actually were protective against cardiovascular mortality. And I'll say it again. Higher cholesterol levels were actually protective against cardiovascular mortality. Longer life, healthier living, all right? So by putting low cholesterol patients over here in the placebo group and putting high cholesterol patients over here in the drug treatment group, And just observational studies show that higher cholesterol over the age of 43 actually meant somebody's going to live longer and have lower cardiovascular events like stroke and heart attack. Well, then what'd you do? You put the healthier subjects in the drug treatment group. So luckily for the the drug company, the drug didn't kill people so much that then it made them worse than the low cholesterol group. So by biasing, what they did here is they biased the results towards a beneficial appearance of the drug. It made the drug appear beneficial, but actually it just didn't kill them strong enough compared to the low cholesterol. Anyways, I hope people understand that. Get the study. It actually goes through familial hypercholesterolemia as well. So if you know what that is, extremely high cholesterol levels, important for people to understand that. If you're on a cholesterol medication and you have that condition, you are literally killing yourself. Read the article. Do cholesterol drugs do any good? Another great article, Bloomberg. I really think it's a very, very simple, easy read. This was up in Canada somewhere. They did a study on this, and they looked this blockbuster drug, one of the top-selling medications in America and even Canada. Is it beneficial? What is it really doing for society? And what they come to, that there was no overall benefit for women at any age. They said there may have been a 1% decline in secondary heart attacks in men, but no overall reduction in deaths or mortality whatsoever. No reduction in disease. There was increases in cancer problems, increases in problems with erectile dysfunction, all kinds of increases in depression, Alzheimer's disease. So you were basically at best robbing Peter to pay Paul. I can't even say that. That's what they try to say, is if you lower your cholesterol over here, you might lower your heart attack risk, but it really isn't there because now the science that we have compared to this 2008 article. But it's a really simple read. I'll tell you what something I mention all the time to patients. If you would stay tuned into Dr. Hoffman at UCLA, he's a professor of ethics. I like some of the stuff he puts out. He put out the article in the British Medical Journal, which is Centers for Disease Control and Protection, Protecting the Private Good. And he said, as we see in the literature and in what the CDC says, they say the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, they're not preventing disease. We have the sickest nation in the world, and we've been following their direction for 30, 40 years now. They have failed miserably. We should no longer listen to them whatsoever. I hate the Facebook ads. I get those things all the time. It is infuriating to watch them lie to people on there. But he says we have to get the government to reject the devil's bargain because the CDC has been scientifically shown to lie to people constantly, over and over and over again, from drugs to vaccines to all kinds of things. So we can't trust the CDC anymore. But beyond that, in this article, in this Bloomberg article, do cholesterol drugs do any good? He says, the way our healthcare system runs, it's not based on data, it's based on what makes money. If people would understand that, they would understand why their doctor is prescribing them this medication. It is based not on the scientific data showing that cholesterol is good for you. There is a way to use cholesterol to see what your body's doing and if your body's in a state of disease or in good function. You can look at the very specific cholesterol numbers, and we can do tests on that to see what your numbers are, to see if you're in a disease state or if you're in a healthy state of higher cholesterol. We can use that to help us understand what the patient's body is doing. But just saying high cholesterol is bad is wrong, completely wrong. And there is no good and there is no bad. There is only good, there is no bad. There is a purpose to those, but again, you can use them as indicators. I'm hoping I'm driving this home well enough that people will understand that you can use it for a beneficial effect to the patient by understanding what their body is doing. But he says the healthcare system is based on data, or not based on data, it's based on what makes money. Giving people drugs, testing only a couple biomarkers, blood tests, and then saying, hey, look, that's high, you need this drug, people fall for it. It's what makes money. And as they develop all the sexual dysfunction, so they'll need Viagra if they're a male, they'll need hormonal replacement if they're a female, they'll need, Alzheimer's medication in the future, or they'll only be treated for diabetes and cancer in their future because they took a cholesterol medication which made their body worse. So read that, great article. And on top of that, she's taking a blood pressure medication. Beta blockers may not prevent heart attacks and strokes. So I hammer this because I always give my patients educational material from the peer-reviewed science that allows them to make an informed decision and start understanding that, again, Dr. Hoffman says, and I agree, the way our healthcare system runs is not based on that, it's based on what makes money. So I like this article. It's Journal of American Medical Association. It is where the study was published. It was 45,000 patients, one of the largest studies ever conducted on beta blockers, and they observed what would happen over time with patients on these drugs. See, these drugs were approved to lower your blood pressure, not your stroke and heart attack risk. Let me say that again, folks. If someone you know is on a beta blocker or any blood pressure medication, these medications were approved to lower your blood pressure, not your stroke risk. And what they find, it looked at 45,000 patients with prior heart attack, stroke, coronary artery disease, or risk factors for coronary artery disease, and found that those on beta blockers did not show significantly lower rates of heart attack, stroke, or cardiac death than those not on the medication. Is because what's causing your blood pressure to go up is still there. If you have autonomic nervous system imbalance and sympathetic tone or sympathetic overdrive that's driving your blood pressure up, if you don't fix that, especially if it's spinal, guess what? You're still going to die early. People need to understand that taking a drug is not correcting the underlying cause, and the cause will always get worse if that's all you do. Even if you were to use an herb, you've got to seek out what is causing the problem. Try your best to identify that through proper testing, and if you can do that, you get to the root cause, you'll be healthier, you'll live longer. But these medications were not approved for lowering stroke risk. So, this is a gentleman, Dr. Randall Thomas, a cardiovascular specialist from Mayo Clinic. He says, this is a very compelling study that has the potential to shake up the conventional wisdom that exists regarding the role of beta blockers in the management of patients with cardiovascular disease. I think it's very comical that a Mayo Clinic cardiologist says it was wisdom, the conventional wisdom thought that taking a chemical that if I consumed enough of it would kill me. Anybody would die if they consumed enough beta blockers. It'd kill your heart. So think about this, folks. A drug that could kill you quickly, how does it do it if it's just one pill a day? It just does it slowly, folks. People need to start grasping the understanding and concept that a drug is nothing more than a piece of duct tape and your engine's gonna blow down the road. And worse than a piece of duct tape, because duct tape wouldn't shut your engine down or make it blow up in your car. A drug can do that to your kidneys, your liver. They can be carcinogenic, cancer-causing. They can be neurologically harmful. It can cause a lot of problems. So beta blockers, they thought it was wisdom. Well, wisdom would have thought, maybe we need to fix the underlying cause. That would be a lot of wisdom. Mayo Clinic's cardiologist, Dr. Randall, doesn't seem to have a lot of wisdom, in my opinion. But he thinks the conventional wisdom of the collective medical community, thinking that beta blockers were going to lower their stroke and heart attack risk, he thought that was wisdom. Wrong wording. I don't know. That's just me. I'm kind of cynical, I guess, there on that. Because it's not wise to use duct tape to fix things for long, unless it's like a floatable raft, okay, or a bumper. I don't know. So what did we find on this lady? We found poor gut health. She had leaky gut. She had signs of poor immune system issues in her digestive tract. She had food allergies, elevated thyroid peroxidase antibodies, elevated C-reactive protein and monocytes, so elevated inflammation and an indication of her immune system. She said she had a herpes simplex virus, cold sores frequently, especially whenever she would get stressed, so she had active infection. She had elevated glucose and F-dimer, fibrin dimer, I'm sorry. So thyroid dysfunction, she had an immune system problem with her thyroid, and this is an immune system issue. It is not necessarily a thyroid issue. It will cause a thyroid issue later on in life, down the road, but if you have elevated thyroid antibodies, your immune system is attacking your thyroid, and you need to get rid of the root causes of an immune system problem. Not a thyroid problem, an immune system problem. You can end up developing a thyroid problem if your thyroid has, or your immune system destroys enough of your thyroid, then you could have a problem. The reality is it's an immune system disorder, so you have to seek the underlying problems with the immune system. There can be something as simple as a spinal trauma that interrupts the signaling from the brain out to the thyroid. No longer can the brain identify that your thyroid is your own. We've seen this with chiropractic care alone. Patients that undergo chiropractic care have elevated thyroglobulin antibodies, thyroperoxidase antibodies. They have increased immune system response against their thyroid tissue, and ultimately that goes to nothing. Their numbers come down or are eliminated, no longer having an autoimmune attack against their thyroid because the brain's communication out to the thyroid is restored. The brain can identify. I always say it in military standard, communication ways. It's like the brain is central command. All right, you need to be able to signal out to your ground forces, your immune system, to be able to identify self, good from bad. All right, you want your immune system to attack bad, you want your immune system to recognize good, but your nervous system is what allows for that proper communication and coordination of your immune system, so you have to take care of the spine. So restoring or correcting misalignments of the spine can improve that. So that's one of the reasons we started on structural corrective chiropractic care for her spine. She again had the Dowager's hump, she had the forward head positioning, so she had a lot of the indicators for that. Again, that sympathetic tone can drive cortisol levels up, another way in which people will gain weight around the midsection or have problems losing weight. So is immune system issues, so we're going to check the things for her immune system. Again, it was pretty easy to understand just through questioning the patient that she had a underlying infection. She had herpes simplex virus. She had cold sores frequently. She would always just take the medication, but yet nothing to actually boost her immune system to fix that underlying chronic infection. You've got to get rid of the chronic infection. You've got to get that under control. So you've got to get the immune system strong enough to fight off that infection or completely eliminate or keep it at bay, keep it non-active. Again, we saw elevated monocytes, an indication of elevated immune system, or the immune system trying to fight something off. What was interesting to me is discussing this with the patient and asking her about these tests here are all other medical physician testing. All right, and I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a chiropractor. I'm a Wellness Way physician. But the reality is, her other medical physicians, all of them, none of them sat down with her and said, this is why you have elevated monocytes. This is what elevated monocytes can do to you over time if you don't get rid of the underlying infection that's triggering those elevated monocytes. This is what it means. This is what's going to happen, and this is what we need to do to fix it. No one ever discussed that with her. She didn't even know what they were, but she knew they were always hot. She also had C-reactive protein elevated to 4.72, not during an active, well, she had an active infection, but it wasn't like a cold or a flu virus or something temporary, acute infection. This was a chronic infection. She had no cold sore at the time. So according to her, she's like, well, it's under control. I don't have that infection. No, you do. Your body's just working day in, day out to try and keep it at bay. And that's why any type of stress in her life would trigger that cold sore to come up. So we had to get her immune system strong, so we wanted to look at the root cause of this. So that elevated C-reactive protein would likely be from that chronic infection. And again, we have to get that under control. And that is a big one. Like C-reactive protein, to have elevated C-reactive protein is a huge indicator of cardiovascular risk factors. You know, one of my professors in chiropractic school actually used to tell us all, if you have a 0 to 1, your risk of heart disease is almost nothing. You know, your stroke risk, your heart attack risk is almost 0. All right. If you go to 1 to 3, you're elevated. If you go up 3 to 5, you got a really high level, 5, 10, 15 years maybe. Maybe you'll make it 20 years without a stroke or heart attack. But it's coming if you stay at that level. All right. Not only, and no matter how much you lower your cholesterol, you're still going to have that stroke or heart attack. Probably sooner, because with inflammation, you have tissue damage. Tissue damage necessitates the body increasing cholesterol to heal and repair that damaged tissue. So you've got to have higher cholesterol if you have elevated inflammation in your system, all right? cholesterol is the repair guys, or the firemen to put out the fire, you got to get rid of the root causes of the high inflammation. So, but he would say above a 5 to 10, you know what, just, sign your will right now, make sure it's in order because you're dying any day. And that's true. If you have chronically elevated above a 5 on your C-reactive protein, you better get it under control right away. So if you've had blood work before from other medical physicians, go back and ask them if they did a C-reactive protein, CRP. Look at it. If you have elevated CRP and you want help, you can call our office, 931-591-2010. If you need assistance, we can do phone consultations. I'm helping you get rid of the root causes. I'm not treating high cholesterol. I'm not treating high blood pressure. I don't even treat these hormonal problems. It's kind of weird for me to say that when I'm talking about a woman with low libido and hormonal disruption and ultimately having poor weight loss, inability to lose weight loss, having a thyroid disorder. I'm treating her, I'm helping her understand all this other blood work that was done by her medical physicians that nobody wanted to explain to her, and help her develop a plan to get rid of the chronic infection, to get her gut and digestive tract health under control, to be able to improve the thyroid function, to improve and regulate and bring back into homeostasis her body so that her hormones could regulate. I'm helping her be well. The stool sample, we were able to see that she had very, very low. She had only one of the good beneficial microflora, the beneficial bacteria, that would be the good bugs in her digestive tract. She had two of those high. She had no growth in several. And very, very low growth in a couple others. And she had a commensal, which has not been indicated as a pathogenic, being harmful. There's nothing dysbiotic, nothing in the red that's really harmful. There's commensal in there. The commensal is kind of the idea where they don't know if it's good and they don't know if it's bad. So, her IgA, which is her secretory IgA, that is the indication of what her immune system is doing at the mucosal membrane level. So her mucosal membrane immune system was very, very, very weak. So basically the armed forces, her immune system at the wall, at the barrier between our external environment and internal environment was very, very weak. So she was constantly getting sick because the soldiers at the wall couldn't defend bad bugs from getting into her body and harming her. So we wanted to boost her, strengthen her immune system, so we did some things for that, and I'm going to go through the protocol we used with her at the very end. Leaky gut, if anybody doesn't understand what leaky gut is, if you have a poor mucosal membrane immune system, you are going to have a lot more inflammation in your digestive tract. Again, she had that watermelon belly. So her immune system, her inflammation was there. Leaky gut is when the permeability, the cell membranes, the cell-to-cell junctions, connections within the digestive tract aren't strong. We need to let in things that need to come in. We need to keep out things that need to stay out. We need to fully digest our food before we absorb amino acids from proteins. We shouldn't be absorbing full proteins. We can become allergic to certain foods. We can become allergic to almost any type of food if we have a severe enough leaky gut. All right, bad bacteria also gives us this film over our digestive tract, really helps in boosting and strengthening our immune system. So again, that's another primary factor why she had a low immune system, thus those cold sores, thus the low secretory IgA, the mucosal membrane immune system strength. So we need to get her good bacteria up. We needed to heal leaky gut, so we did some things for that. We need to get rid of anything like glyphosate, GMOs. We need to get rid of all of that. Glyphosate destroys your gut membrane, It will cause leaky gut literally in a day. Almost every time you consume a genetically modified organism, genetically modified food, or glyphosate, and you're basically almost always consuming both at the same time, you have a level of leaky gut. You are harming your gut, all right? Get rid of that stuff. So the result of glyphosate goes far beyond cancer. We see all over the news right now that Monsanto and Bayer bought Monsanto, so you couldn't blame Bayer, but the reality is Monsanto was lying and in working with the EPA in the United States to hide and conceal the reality that cancer was being caused by glyphosate. Glyphosate's carcinogenic. Its cancer-causing properties do cause many cancers, but the reality is it causes many other health issues that are not well documented because it can cause so many different health problems. Your gut is a foundation of your health. That's why I said we checked her spine, we checked her gut, we checked her nutrition. We really just said, let's hit the foundations first and let's see where we get you in the next 3 to 6 months. Again, we did her food allergy testing. Food allergies came up with casein, cow's milk. That would be the cow's milk. If you're allergic to casein, it's basically any milk. It doesn't matter if it's goat's milk, cow's milk, sheep milk, any of it. Get rid of it. All right, flaxseed was number 4. It was +4, so a very high inflammatory immune response against flaxseed. So I would oftentimes in the past recommend flaxseed for hormonal disruption, for women dealing with hormonal problems. Flaxseed works really well for that, but if a woman is being or allergic to that food, then guess what? She is having an inflammatory immune response after consuming that, and that would drive disease. So we want to lower inflammation, and that will ultimately lead to better hormonal outcomes. And egg yolk. So, and kiwi was another one, but again, the flaxseed was probably the most critical finding on that. She did eat eggs daily, so we needed to eliminate that. She ate a lot of cheese, a lot of dairy. We needed to eliminate that. But the flaxseed, it helped us in knowing what the recommendation was going to be nutritionally. So the things we did, again, structural corrective chiropractic care. We checked her food allergies. We put her on a candida gut. Another thing was we saw a low level of candida overgrowth in her digestive system, so we were able to start working on that with dietary restrictions and improvements. Really, it's not that much restriction. It's like just eat the right things. Eat the things you should be doing. But restriction in a lot of your starchy foods, you don't eat a ton of fruit. You eat low glycemic, low sugar containing fruits. Things like that. You need to stay away from some things that are fermented at times, that have yeast in them. So we put her on Restore. Restore is a tetrahydrocarbon that enables us to heal leaky gut, really works to help shield the digestive tract against the harms of glyphosate or Roundup that's sprayed on many of our conventional foods. Put her on a megabiotic. This isn't just a standard probiotic. We put her on a megabiotic because we're able to get up affordable cost. We're able to get up to 200 billion live cultures or CFUs every day. So we're doing a 1/4 teaspoon twice a day with her to get that good bacteria up as fast as possible. That would help in boosting her immune system, which will ultimately help with the cold sores, but also helping her heal her gut. And so those 2 supplements were primarily for the gut. We used a digestive blend of herbs to help in healing the gut, calming it down, lowering inflammation of the digestive tract, and that's a blend of herbs and mushrooms specific to the digestive tract, including chamomile and others, and reishi. We used a mushroom immunity, that boosts, again, this is turkey tail, this is reishi, chaga, cordyceps, different mushrooms that enhance and strengthen our immune system. So we used a mushroom blend. We used turmeric to get her inflammation down. Now, turmeric was specific to her C-reactive protein. We just need to get her inflammation down. Turmeric is a phenomenal anti-inflammatory, all right, and it doesn't inhibit tissue repair. It actually enhances and improves kidney function, liver function, and tissue repair, so some great benefits. It can improve cognitive function. They've even shown in Alzheimer's patients. I definitely recommend it for patients that have suffered dementia or cognitive decline due to cholesterol medications. It's been shown to assist in the tissue repair and reversing Alzheimer's disease. So really cool extra information there, but we use turmeric with fenugreek. A lot of people would already understand that turmeric is beneficial for inflammation. Many people understand and know that black pepper is often a recommendation. Get your food allergies. Black pepper is one of the most frequent food allergies we see. It's in a lot of foods, almost on everything we eat out there outside of our own home. So highly recommend a food allergy test for that. But the reality is fenugreek is another one that we can use when somebody is allergic to black pepper, but also fenugreek is really beneficial with turmeric. It increases the bioavailability and concentration. So almost the medicinal potential of turmeric is enhanced by about 45 times when combined with fenugreek. So we use an herb combination there. We put her on ashwagandha. That was more for assistance in just revving up, moving the needle. I always say getting the flywheel I talked to a patient the other day, didn't know what a flywheel was, and not making fun of her, but it's just like, wow, I'm an old person, it seems like. But a flywheel is like a big old wheel that spins fast, it's heavy, and once you get it moving in the right direction, it can kind of sustain on its own. So all of these supplements are not going to be taken for the rest of her life. I would like her to sustain with maintenance chiropractic care periodically, with a proper nutrition and exercise regimen, a healthy lifestyle, and that's it. You know what? If she wants to take ashwagandha, or she wants to take a different herbal blend to be able to help her body just live above and beyond. You know, I take herbs as a protective mechanism. I take, like right now, I'm on astragalus. I'm taking a little bit of ashwagandha, California poppy at times when I feel stressed through the day. You know what? I take periodically, I take wormwood to make sure I'm clearing my gut out and helping with things like gut health, you know, and getting rid of parasites. You know, I do a blend of different things. I do them periodically. I do them with what my senses tell me to do, but I do it to help my system prevent health problems in the future. But in these situations with these patients, I tell them, I don't want you on herbs and supplements. And as you can see here, almost every single one of the things I put her on could be found in nature, produced in nature. You know, even Restore, if we had healthy soil, you'd be getting a lot of beneficial soil-based probiotics, but also that tetrahydrocarbon. You'd be getting that stuff from the breakdown of plant matter and things like that in nature. That black soil, that's what we should be growing our fruits and vegetables in, but we're not today. And we should be actually harvesting fruits and vegetables straight from the garden, eating them literally with just a slight cleaning, brush the dirt off and eat it and consume it. You get a lot of beneficial microbes, as well as that beneficial effect through those carbon molecules that help in healing the gut. So everything could be found in nature. Everything could be found. It's not isolated compound nutrients. This is one of the things she had been through functional medicine in the past to try and correct her hormonal problems, and she still couldn't lose weight. They had her on, I think they had her on several $100s of supplements every single month. Ultimately, they were almost every single one of them was an isolated nutrient supplement. I disagree with that approach, because those nutrient deficiencies were coming because her immune system was chronically elevated, or not necessarily elevated. It was exhausted, but it was chronically being activated, driving the autoimmune system, or the autoimmune response towards her thyroid. That was one of the factors, coupled with the misalignments in her neck. You know, those isolated nutrients, or those nutrients couldn't get digested into her body through an inflamed gut. She was constantly dealing with reoccurrent infections. You know, so these problems are what drive the nutrient deficiencies. So they drive your nutrient storage down because you're constantly being stressed or taxed to use these nutrients. So just giving isolated nutrients is like force feeding the body. It's not going to fix the underlying cause of the problem. You've got to use whole food herbs, in my opinion. So that's what we're doing in this practice. So really cool stuff. And then we said if we need to, we can go forward, and I would do, probably the primary recommendation was going to be a thyroid test to see if her immune system is still attacking her thyroid in the future. That would be one of the ones I would say would be a good test to run again in the future. And if we need to, we can move on to further hormonal testing. Another recommendation I had for this lady was to get out in nature. She was chronically stressed at work, stressed with her husband. She needs to take time away and time for herself. And research does show that if you get out in the wilderness, out in the wild, it really, really helps. I love the name, The Wild Doc. I go out, I was literally like, my passion is to be out in the wilderness, out in the wild. I do that daily. I mean, this morning I'm walking around looking at my fruit trees, looking at my berry bushes, seeing that my kids are always picking our berries way too early. You know, when you got a 3-year-old and a not quite 5-year-old that can walk around, it's like as soon as those mulberries start getting those little black spots on them, meaning they're turning ripe, they're eating them. I'm like, but they're still healthy for them. You know, you can't complain when your kids are out there climbing a tree at 5 years old, pick mulberries. But, you know, just being out in nature is phenomenal for your homeostasis. It's for your balance. All right, we got to balance life, and husbands, you got to help your wives balance their life, balance the workload at home, balance that stress level, and trust me, it'll pay off, and it'll pay dividends. I was going to say in the long run, but actually dividends in the bedroom if you want to look at it that way, guys. But so I hope this information helps you all. I think I covered just about everything that I needed to in this case review. You know, again, we've got to look at the underlying causes. We laid out a foundation for this lady, and she actually, last checkup with her, she's doing phenomenal. She's losing weight. She has more energy than she's ever had. She's saying she is on the right path. So with that, you know, that is just laying the foundation. That's nothing special. All we did was look and take the information from our previous medical physician testing, utilize that for what it actually showed us, and then we ultimately put her on the right formula of herbs and things, and we took care of her gut, we took care of her spine, and through doing so, we set her on the right path. And as she spins that flywheel with things like the adaptogen, the ashwagandha, and these other things, eventually we can start weaning off and coming off those herbs, because once she gets her health moving in the right direction well enough, the flywheel effect takes over, and then she doesn't need to be on these things for the rest of her life. This is why there's a massive difference between what the Wellness Way, what my clinic does, what the Wellness Way clinics do across the United States. If we understand that if we can start helping people get their health moving in the right direction, they can start sustaining on their own. All right, with periodic checkups, if they'd like, we can help them kind of tweak and hone and fine tune, or just give that flywheel another little kick in the right direction to help it moving forward. But medicine, on the other hand, she was on multiple medications. She had tried multiple different approaches. She had tried functional medicine in the past, using isolated nutrient supplements to using medications. None of those things are correcting the underlying cause. By identifying some of the factors that were the foundational underlying causes, we start moving her health in the right direction. She starts getting well. See, medicine works to get you on drugs. The medical model puts you on drugs, covers your check engine light up with a piece of duct tape. You're going to get sicker. You're going to die earlier. But on the way to dying early, you're getting sicker and sicker. You're developing more and more health problems. In this case, she was developing diabetes. She was developing and getting worse and worse hormonal problems. She was developing a weight problem, a major weight problem. She continued with digestive problems. None of those things getting better, all those things getting worse while stuck in the medical model. When we identify the underlying factors, we begin to get her well, and that's the Wellness Way.